Welcome to Learning English from People.
The Saint's Secret Pain, Mother Teresa. The world saw a small woman in a simple white and blue sari. To millions of people, she was a living saint. She helped the poorest people on earth. But for 50 years, she kept a secret from everyone. Inside, she felt lost and alone, as if God was not there. This is the story of Mother Teresa. It is a story of great faith and of great doubt. Her story began on August 26, 1910. She was born in a city called Skopje, in a country we now know as North Macedonia. Her name was Anjeze Gonks Bajeksiu. She was the youngest child in a Catholic family from Albania. Her father was a successful builder and was active in politics. Her mother, Dranophile, was a very kind woman. She often invited poor people to eat dinner with their family. She taught her daughter an important lesson: always share what you have with others. When Anjeze was only 8 years old, something terrible happened. Her father went to a political meeting. He came home very sick and died soon after. The family believed he was poisoned. This sad event changed everything. They lost their money and faced hard times. But this difficult time also made young Anjeze strong. From a young age, Anjeze loved hearing stories about missionaries. These were religious people who traveled to faraway places to help others. She was especially interested in the missionaries working in Bengal, India. She felt a strong feeling inside her. By the time she was 12, she knew her life belonged to God. At 18, she made a choice that would change her life forever. In 1928, she decided to leave her family and her home. She traveled to Ireland to become a nun with the Sisters of Loreto. This group had a mission in India. The day she left was the last time she ever saw her mother or her sister. It was a very painful goodbye. She had to learn English because it was the language used in the schools in India. Later, her family moved to Albania. A new government came to power there. It was a communist government that did not like religion. The leader of the country thought Teresa was a danger. For many years, she tried to get permission to visit her sick mother, but the government always said no. This separation caused her great sadness. She once said, "I can understand why I must suffer, but it is so hard to understand why my mother has to suffer." In 1929, she arrived in India. It was a new and amazing country that would become her home for the rest of her life. She started her training as a nun in the city of Darjeeling, near the beautiful Himalayan mountains. She learned to speak Bengali and taught at a school for girls. On May 24, 1931, she took her religious vows. She chose a new name: Teresa. For almost 20 years, Sister Teresa lived a quiet life as a nun. She taught history and geography at a school in Calcutta, which is now called Calcutta. She was a good teacher and everyone liked her. In 1944, she became the head of the school. But outside the school walls, the city of Calcutta was full of suffering. There was a terrible famine that killed many people. There was also violent fighting between Hindus and Muslims. Sister Teresa saw the pain and poverty from a distance. It made her feel very sad and restless. She knew she had to do more. Everything changed on one special day. It was September 10, 1946. She was on a train going from Calcutta to Darjeeling. On that train journey, she felt something powerful. She later called it the call within the call. She believed it was a clear message directly from God. The message was simple: she must leave the convent. She must go and live with the poorest people. She had to serve them directly. For her, this was not a choice. It was an order from God. But leaving the convent was not easy. She had to get permission from the leaders of the Catholic Church. It was a long and difficult process. She had to be very patient and determined. After almost 2 years of waiting and writing letters, the Vatican finally said yes. In 1948, she walked out of the convent gates for the last time. She took off the black clothes of the Loreto nuns. She put on a simple white cotton sari with a blue border. This would become her famous uniform. She was 40 years old. She had no money, no home, and no plan. She only had her faith. She took a short medical training course. Then she walked into the slums of Calcutta. Her first year was very, very hard. She started a school for poor children in the open air. She began to care for sick and hungry people she found on the streets. She had no money for food or medicine. She had to beg for everything. She was tired all the time, but the hardest part was the loneliness. She wrote in her diary about her doubts. She was tempted to go back to her old, comfortable life in the convent. She wrote the poverty of the poor must be so hard for them. She remembered the comfort of her old life. A voice in her head told her, "You only have to say the word and all that will be yours again." But she made a choice. She wrote, "My God, I choose this. I love you and I want to do what you want." She did not give up. Slowly, some of her old students saw what she was doing. They were inspired by her and they came to help. On October 7, 1950, her small group of helpers became an official religious community. The Vatican gave them the name, the Missionaries of Charity. Their mission was clear. Mother Teresa said they would serve the hungry, the naked, the homeless, the crippled, the blind, the lepers, all those people who feel unwanted, unloved, uncared for. The work began. In 1952, she opened a special home for people who were dying. She called it Nirmal Hriday, which means home of the pure heart. It was a place for people who were left to die on the streets. The care was simple, but the idea was powerful. Every person, she said, should die with dignity and love. They were cared for according to their own faith. Hindus were given water from the Ganges River. Muslims had the Quran read to them. Catholics received their last prayers. A beautiful death, she said, is for people who lived like animals to die like angels, loved and wanted. Soon, she opened more homes. She started Shanti Nagar, a city of peace for people with leprosy, a terrible skin disease. She opened a home for children without parents called Nirmala Shishu Bhavan. Her group of helpers grew bigger and bigger. Young women from all over India and the world came to join her. They promised to live a simple life of poverty and to give wholehearted free service to the poorest of the poor. By the 1960s, the Missionaries of Charity had homes all over India. Then, the world started to notice her work. In 1965, the group opened its first home outside of India, in Venezuela. Soon, there were homes in Rome, Africa, and many other places. By the time she died, her small group of 12 helpers had become more than 4,000 sisters. They worked in over 600 missions in more than 120 countries. They ran homes for people with AIDS, kitchens for the hungry, and centers for people who lost their homes in wars or disasters. As her work grew, Mother Teresa became famous around the world. She could speak 5 languages. She traveled everywhere to speak about her mission and help people in trouble. In 1982, there was a war in Beirut, Lebanon. She heard that many children were trapped in a hospital on the front line of the fighting. She personally arranged a temporary stop to the fighting between the Israeli army and Palestinian fighters. The small, old nun walked through the dangerous war zone with Red Cross workers to rescue the children. She became a global celebrity after a TV documentary was made about her in 1969. It was called Something Beautiful for God. The filmmakers thought the light inside her home for the dying was too dark to film. But when they developed the film, the images were bright and clear. The director, Malcolm Muggeridge, called it a miracle of divine light coming from Mother Teresa herself. The story made her even more famous. Honors and awards came from all over the world. In 1979, she received the most famous award of all, the Nobel Peace Prize, but she did something unusual. She refused to go to the big, expensive dinner for the winners. She asked that the money for the dinner be given to the poor people of Calcutta. In her speech, she gave a simple message. Someone asked her, "What can we do to promote world peace?" She answered, "Go home and love your family." She also said that the countries in the West had a different kind of poverty. It was a poverty of loneliness, of feeling unloved. She said this spiritual poverty was much harder to fix than an empty stomach. But as she became more famous, some people began to criticize her. A journalist named Christopher Hitchens made a documentary called Hell's Angel and wrote a book about her. He and others said that Mother Teresa did not try to end poverty. They said she actually liked poverty because she believed suffering brought people closer to God. Critics talked about the conditions in her homes. They said the places were not always clean. They said the sick people did not get proper medical care or medicine for their pain. This was surprising because her organization received millions of dollars in donations. People asked why this money was not used to build modern hospitals. They also pointed out that needles were sometimes used again and again on different patients, which was dangerous. Her strong religious beliefs also caused debate. She was completely against abortion and birth control. She called abortion the greatest destroyer of peace today. Some people said these ideas were harmful, especially in a country like India with a very large population. She was also criticized for accepting money from powerful and corrupt leaders, like the dictators of Haiti. In India, some groups accused her of trying to convert poor Hindus to Christianity. Her supporters said this was not true. Her followers defended her. They said the critics did not understand her real mission. Her goal was not to build hospitals or to solve the big problem of poverty. Her goal was spiritual. She wanted to give love and dignity to people that society had thrown away. She wanted to make sure that no one died feeling alone. They said her simple homes were a reflection of her own simple life. But the biggest surprise about Mother Teresa's life came after she died. Her private letters and diaries were published. For the first time, the world learned about her deepest secret. For nearly 50 years, the woman who seemed so full of faith was living in deep spiritual pain. She called it the darkness. She felt that God was gone. She felt a complete silence when she prayed. She wrote to a priest, "Where is my faith? Even deep down, there is nothing but emptiness and darkness. If there be God, please forgive me." She felt that her prayers were not heard. She felt that her smile was a mask to hide her pain. For 5 decades, while she was building a global mission and inspiring millions, she herself felt abandoned by God. This secret makes her life even more amazing. She did not continue her work because of good feelings or spiritual comfort. She continued because of her promise. Her faith was not a feeling, it was an action. Every day she chose to serve others, even when she felt nothing inside. It was an incredible act of will and determination. In her last years, Mother Teresa's health was not good. She had heart problems and other illnesses. She finally stepped down as the head of the Missionaries of Charity in March 1997. She died on September 5, 1997. She was 87 years old. The world mourned her death. India, the country she loved and served, gave her a state funeral. This is an honor usually only for presidents and prime ministers. People of all religions and from all parts of society came to say goodbye. The Catholic Church moved quickly to make her a saint. In 2003, she was beatified, the first step to becoming a saint. The church said she had performed a miracle by healing an Indian woman with a tumor, but there was some debate. The woman's doctors said that their medicine had cured her, not a miracle. Still, a second miracle was approved. On September 4, 2016, Pope Francis officially named her Saint Teresa of Calcutta. The story of Mother Teresa is not a simple one. To many, she is still a perfect symbol of love and kindness. She showed that one person can make a huge difference in the world. Her missionaries of charity continue their work today, a living legacy to her vision. But she is also a complex figure. She was a helper of the poor who was accused of not fighting poverty. She was a public icon of strong faith who lived in private spiritual pain. Her life was full of these contradictions. Perhaps her true story is not about being a perfect saint. It is about being a human. She was a woman who, while living in her own deep darkness, chose to spend her entire life bringing light to the darkest corners of the world.